Violent end to hostage crisis at Taiwan prison. Former Korean Air executive jailed over nut rage case. And Hong Kong residents found guilty of illegal road racing across the border.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a dramatic hostage-taking story at a prison in Taiwan. 6 prisoners held a warden and a head guard hostage for 14 hours before the standoff ended, with the inmates killing themselves. Both hostages walk free unharmed. Here's Diane To with the details.
The standoff took a turn for the worse around midnight as gunshots rang out from the Kaohsiung prison. Inside, the heavily armed prisoners were holding their hostages, a prison warden and a head guard. The inmates made several requests, including for food and a small TV. A member of powerful triad gang United Bamboo, Cheng Li-te, believed to be the ringleader of the hostage-takers, demanded that a former gang leader bring sorghum wine to them. If he brings us 2 bottles of sorghum wine, we will drink it and surrender with the hostages safe, Cheng said in a phone call to the media. A second option was if someone throws in 2 bottles of wine, they would end their own lives after a drink each. And if you reject both options, then sorry, all 8 will die, said Cheng. They were given the wine and in exchange released the head guard. Later in the morning, 2 shootouts happened between the prisoners and police. At about 5:10, 4 of the inmates reportedly shot and killed themselves. 20 minutes later, the remaining 2, including Cheng, shot and killed themselves as well. The standoff ended after 14 hours, with the prison warden walking free. Authorities said it all began around 4 p.m. yesterday when the 6 feigned illness to subdue a number of prison guards, holding them hostage with weapons grabbed from the armory. The warden offered to be taken into captivity in exchange for the guards. After negotiation, the prisoners took the warden and head guard hostage. At one point, the inmates, serving terms of between 25 years and life, tried to escape but failed. Among their complaints were mistreatment and that it was unfair former President Chen Shui-bian was granted medical parole, while Cheng claimed he's in for a murder he did not commit. President Ma Ying-jeou has condemned the incident and ordered a thorough review of the prison management system. He wants an investigation report by tomorrow and a proposal for systemic reform within a week. Diane To, TVB News.
A South Korean court has sentenced the daughter of the chairman of Korean Air to 1 year in prison. Heather Cho, who was forced to step down as the company's head of in-flight service, was found guilty of violating aviation laws. James Aiken has more on the case involving the infamous in-flight tantrum known as nut rage.
Once a high-flying executive for Korean Air, Heather Cho has been grounded for a year. The episode began on the tarmac at New York's John F. Kennedy Airport in early December. As the flight was getting ready to depart, Cho, who was in first class, was served macadamia nuts in a bag, not on a dish. Cho thought that was a breach of service protocol in first class and sparked a heated confrontation with the crew in which she demanded the flight crew chief be expelled from the flight. The plane, which had started to leave the gate, had to return. During the trial, the crew chief testified that Cho behaved like a beast and treated the crew like slaves, as she became abusive during the incident. Today, a Seoul court ruled Cho was guilty of forcing a flight to change its route, obstructing the flight's captain in the performance of his duties, and forcing a crew member off a plane. The court found Cho not guilty of interfering with a transport ministry investigation into the incident. In the court's ruling, the chief judge said this is a case where human dignity was trampled upon. The verdict amounts to a year in prison. Prosecutors had called for 3 years. Cho's defense lawyer is considering an appeal but says she is repenting. In a letter to the court read out by the judge, Cho said she was truly sorry to those who were hurt. The letter included details about how Cho, one of the richest women in South Korea, was adjusting to prison life. Her behavior caused an uproar. The incident touched a nerve in a country where the economy is dominated by family-run conglomerates that critics say often act above the law. James Aiken, TVB News.
U.S. President Barack Obama has asked Congress to formally authorize the use of military force against Islamic State militants who have seized large swaths of Iraq and Syria. But as Alan Bookney reports, he vowed not to repeat the large and costly ground wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Under Obama's proposal, the military action would be authorized for 3 years, unbounded by national borders. He said a large deployment of troops is not necessary to fight Islamic State, arguing the 3-page document he sent to lawmakers gives him and his successor the needed flexibility to wage a battle that is likely to be a long one.
Now, make no mistake, this is a difficult mission, and it will remain difficult for some time. It's going to take time to dislodge these terrorists, especially from urban areas. But our coalition is on the offensive. ISIL is on the defensive, and ISIL is going to lose.
Obama is now trying to gather support for his proposal, but it could prove difficult. Republicans expressed unhappiness that he's chosen to exclude a long-term commitment of ground forces. Some Democrats, on the other hand, voiced dismay that he opened the door to deployment at all. In Baghdad, Iraq and Jordan put up a united front against the threat of Islamic State. Jordan has stepped up its air offensive against the militants following the murder of its pilot, Muad al-Qasasbeh, at the hands of Islamic State. And in a bit of welcome news for the U.S.-led coalition, United Arab Emirates fighter bombers returned to combat operations. The UAE's decision to launch fresh airstrikes after a more than 1-month hiatus was a strong show of support for Jordan after the death of its pilot. Alan Bookney, TVB News.
The leaders of Ukraine, Russia, Germany, and France have committed to respect Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The new ceasefire deal comes after marathon peace talks in Belarus. French President François Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel brokered the talks between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. The negotiations dragged on for 16 hours as the 4 leaders bargained. Putin told reporters the ceasefire will take effect Sunday, but he added he and Poroshenko disagree on the flashpoint of Debaltseve. The town is a key transport hub in the east and has been the focus of intense fighting. The leaders also agreed regular meetings will be held to ensure the fulfillment of the Minsk agreements. It's not yet clear if the pro-Russian rebels have also agreed to the terms of the ceasefire.
Closer to home, a Shenzhen court has handed down suspended jail sentences to 13 people from Hong Kong. They were all convicted of taking part in illegal racing across the border. Joel De Silva reports.
Authorities say on November 6th last year, 6 illegal racers on luxury cars with Hong Kong license plates raced along a motorway connecting Shenzhen to Guangzhou. A day later, 7 others were seen performing a similar stunt on the same motorway. They were arrested by mainland authorities. They have been slapped with suspended prison sentences after being convicted of dangerous driving. At a police briefing in Shenzhen this afternoon, officers explained how the Hong Kong drivers used walkie-talkies to communicate with one another during their illegal race.
相互之间使用对讲机指挥联络。
They overtook other drivers, sometimes at speeds of more than 200 kilometers per hour. That's at least 100 kilometers over the speed limit. Police stressed that the drivers were aware that they were speeding, but still they did it just for the thrill of racing. Quoting the court decision, police said the suspended sentences were handed down because the defendants pleaded guilty. They will also have to pay fines of between 20,000 and 50,000 yuan each. One of the Hong Kong drivers said he regrets taking part in the illegal race and added that he has learned his lesson. Police have ordered them to arrange tow trucks to take their cars to the border. Then they can retrieve the cars when they return to Hong Kong. They are also required to report to mainland authorities on a regular basis. Sonya Silva, TVB News.
The selection of a pro-vice-chancellor at the University of Hong Kong has sparked controversy. Today, the chief executive's office denied the government interfered with the process. Liz Yoon has more.
A University of Hong Kong selection committee has voted in favor of legal scholar Johannes Chan in becoming its pro-vice-chancellor. But there have been reports top government officials urged University Council members to reject Chan. In a statement, the chief executive's office said neither the chief executive nor the government has intervened in the selection process. Executive Councillor Fanny Law said today she had not made any phone calls to council members. Law agreed that putting pressure on the University Council is a serious challenge to academic freedom. When asked if anyone else had made such calls, this was what Law had to say. I don't know. Worried that such intervention, if it exists, would damage the city's academic freedom, lawmakers are demanding Leung Chun-ying to respond directly on this matter. Democratic Party chairwoman Emily Lau said the incident reminds her of what happened back in 2000. Then Chief Executive Dong Chi-hua was accused of trying to interfere with HKU's public opinion program. An independent inquiry was set up to investigate the case, which led to the resignation of the university's vice-chancellor. Lau called for a probe into the latest incident.
I have written to Dr. Siek Leung, who is the chair of the University Council, urging the Council to consider very seriously to appoint such an independent inquiry to settle this thing.
Civic Party legislator Kwok Ka-ki called for an investigation by a LegCo Select Committee.
This may be the only way that we can find facts of whether C.Y. Leung has lied to us and to the public again.
Former Bar Association Chairman Edward Chen said he's not surprised by the media reports.
If there should be any such interference, I don't expect the evidence to be readily available.
Liz Yun, TVB News.
And still ahead in our newscast, the Immigration Department targets suspected parallel goods traders. In Italy, Costa Concordia captain gets 16-year jail sentence. And the growing popularity of boxing in Thailand.
Longines presents the Longines Hong Kong Masters 2015 live, starting this Friday evening at 6:35 on Pearl, followed by the highlights after the news roundup.
Celebrate the Year of the Sheep at the Sweet 20 World Party. Let's enjoy the 20th International Chinese New Year Night Parade with the rest of the world. On February 19th at Chim Sa Choi, party the night away and enjoy spectacular performances. Come join us and don't miss a great party. Please use public transport and follow police instructions.
Celebrate Chinese New Year with an auspicious feast and a new wardrobe. Forget candlelit dinners this Valentine's Day. Try cooking and making chocolate delicacies. Plus, exquisite Chinese works of art. Tonight, Dolce Vita at 8 on Pearl. The time now is 7:44. The time check was brought to you by Seiko.